Afternoon, folks. It is 4:06, well, 4:10 here on a Thursday afternoon. Janice McGeechan CRT committee is concluding. They finished up public speeches now, public comment, and they're getting ready to move into committee discussion. It's a kangaroo program. We all know it's a kangaroo program. Reason why is because they're not actually addressing any of the issues related to CRT. CRT was never taught in our schools. Things everybody's upset about, they were teaching 10 years ago, they were teaching 20 years ago, they were teaching 40 years ago when I was in school. They'll be teaching them in 10 years. Still be the exact same curriculum. They'll just call it a different name. It's like they decided to call it CRT 6 months ago. They'll stop calling it CRT in 6 months. Only thing outlawing CRT did was take one of the biggest tools out of the books for race abolition in America. One of the best systems to ever come out of the American legal system for the purpose of civil rights was removed when both the left and the right decided to rebrand Grief for Education as critical race theory. Truth is, we've been indoctrinating our children in our schools for over 50 years. CRT is not new indoctrination. It's just a rebranding of the old indoctrination. 1979, United States Department of Education. When we consolidated all of the education in the United States under one model. Yes, that's what we did 50 years ago, 40 years ago. We consolidated all of the education of the United States under a single model. The states surrendered the right to determine the education of the children within their community to the federal government by allowing the United States Department of Education to become a cabinet agency. "40 years later, we still haven't walked that back, folks. 40 years later, we've continued to dumb down education. We've continued to monopolize education. We've continued the deculturalization of America through the uniformity of education by allowing the federal government to continue to monopolize our education curriculum here in the United States." Anyway, it's not really all I came here to talk about today. Reason why is because the Joint Chiefs of Staff are continuing to botch the withdrawal in Afghanistan. Screwing it up by the numbers, folks. Screwing it up intentionally. Hey, you guys, go ahead, comment, type in, please. I'm here for you. I'm here to have a discussion. I am here to share my thoughts with you. I am here so you can share your thoughts with me. Yeah, it's true, we don't have the live feedback interaction going on, but I am right now sitting here in my car waiting for your comments to roll up on my screen. Let me know what you think about CRT. Let me know what you think about what's going on in Afghanistan. Let me know what you think is important. Because as we steadily watch the oligarchs in America, whether they're corporate CEOs, whether they're politicians here in the state of Idaho, with their good old boy networks, with their agencies, their organizations that are trying to dictate what Idaho will look like after the fall. Yes, folks, we are in a fall. We are in the state of cultural decline. We are in the state of societal decline. We have finally achieved the culmination of critical mass. We have the disease. We have the unemployment. We have the unwinnable wars. We have the forever wars. We have the signs of the decline of civilization. We are watching America decide that our culture, our society, is no longer sustainable. They do not want to raise children in the America we have created. So, what can we do to fix it? Are we going to solve it by cultural indoctrination? Is that going to be the indoctrination of the left? Is it going to be the indoctrination of the right? What do you think? Personally, I don't care. The state is not going to dictate what my children learn, even if I sent them to public school. My kids are smart. They're going to come out of it. They can tell when a teacher's full of shit. Yes, they can. Remember being able to tell when a teacher was full of shit. Remember knowing when a politician was full of shit. Remember when a coach was full of shit. I remember when the preacher was full of shit. We can do better, people. We honestly can. We have the ability to create a culture. We have an ability to create a sustainable social culture that respects the right of the individual. Yep, every state, every county, in our churches, you know it, Nancy, you know it. Idaho. Corruption in our politics here in the state of Idaho is based on who you sit next to in church. You go to church, you sit next to somebody in the pews. There's somebody there who's going to help you get elected, as long as you have the right opinion. Yep, Nancy, good old boy networks. Idaho's particularly bad about the church corruption. It's particularly bad about who you sit in, who you sit next to when you go to church every Sunday morning, who your wife talks to at the Relief Society meeting on Wednesday nights. Oh yeah, the good old boy network. It's alive and well. Said different ones, you know. Remember the 1970s, most of the Mormons I grew up around, they're actually fairly liberal. Fairly libertarian, actually. Utah. Well, the interesting thing is there's actually more Mormons per capita here in the state of Idaho than there are in Utah. Salt Lake City. I love you, bro. I love you, bro. Calling out the church. Is that brave or stupid? I don't necessarily think the problem is the church. I do not think the problem is the church, because I know there are a lot of good people in the churches. There are a lot of good people. A lot of good people who believe in the Christian values, in the Jewish values, in the Islamic values. Think about it. The city of Boise has the oldest continuous Jewish synagogue west of the Mississippi River. We got a synagogue older than the synagogues in San Francisco and Los Angeles. Boise! Yes. Think about that. No, the church is not the problem. However, we do have politicians in the church that are problematic, and they do use the church to recruit. Yes, they do. And that's up to the church to fix. It really is. That is up to the church to fix. Um, yeah, especially in this state. Although not so much. Used to be when Morrison Knudsen was a strong industry here, when J.R. Simplot was a strong industry here, when Joe Albertson's supermarkets, yes, when Joe was a strong influence here. You know, back when Idaho had our own captains of industry here back in the 60s and 70s, and even into the 80s before, founders died and allowed their incompetent, self-righteous, selfish kids to inherit. Then all that money that used to be here in Idaho started leaving Idaho. Yeah, there's a certain amount of the corporate world thing going on right now, but for the most part, most of the people who own corporations here in the state of Idaho live somewhere else. All the profit from those corporations leave Idaho and go somewhere else. Yeah, there are some churches, but the churches that are problematic are usually smaller. We got some obnoxious people who are Mormons, but that's not the fault of the LDS Church. It's the fault of individual pride, arrogance of the individual, thinking that their will is God's will. The thought that what they want is what God wants. They forgot to listen to God, or whatever it is they're listening to. Yes. Shalom. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, Tiller. You know who I'm talking about. There's a reason he's no longer a member of the quorum. He stopped listening to God. Yep, Travis, you got it. I think that's one of the common things that an awful lot of us look at. We look at C. Scott Grow. C. Scott Grow is the identity for the religious individual who has stopped listening to God, who has decided that his will is God's will rather than God's will is his will. And he's gotten the two confused, and he's chasing a pipe dream. He's chasing his ego. He no longer recognizes the importance of forgiveness, and he continues to support a retributive justice system here in the state of Idaho. He continues to support prison for people who need compassion. He has lost his way. There are some people out there that may disagree with me who believe that C. Scott Grow is indeed a man of God. You can't be a man of God and insist on a false justice on this planet. Because the Bible does say, justice is mine, saith the Lord. Certain things that we can become responsible for, such as the health and welfare of our fellow man, such as if someone were to murder, rape, steal, things that diminish our community because of actions taken against other people. Yeah, Nancy, beware of the false prophets. Beware of the false prophets. We got them everywhere these days. We got them telling us to go back into Afghanistan, for Christ's sake. Then go back and kill the children of Afghanistan. Okay. Here's a gripe I got. Afghanistan. Some of you know I've been there. 3 tours in Afghanistan. I actually had to leave the CRT abruptly earlier today because somebody had to speak their ignorance that the war of Afghanistan is religious based. No, folks, the war in Afghanistan Taliban are on the right side. You know, there's a lot of you who are upset about the Taliban. We've spent 20 years talking shit about the Taliban. We've been spending 20 years talking about how they mistreat and how they abuse their people. Okay? For the last 20 years, the United States military has gone in and supported anti-Taliban warlords. You know why those warlords were anti-Taliban? Because the Taliban were anti-pederast. Yeah, that's what we did. We went in, we spent 20 years supporting pederasts and drug dealers in Afghanistan because they were anti-Taliban. And for any of you who are paying attention, we spent 20 years on the wrong side of that fight. We spent 20 years fighting people who are only interested in preserving their future, in protecting their children from abuse. Guys, we were so on the wrong side of that war. Now, there's a lot of Sharia law that was going on there that I don't approve of. What we did while we were there was worse than what they were doing under Sharia law. You know, we can admit that. Except our failure in choosing the wrong side to support for 20 years. We're not going to correct anything. Now, of course, the thing is we actually have to remove the people who sat in Washington, D.C. and approved of the way we were conducting that war for 20 years. You don't remove the people in Washington, D.C. who approved of that atrocious human rights violation we spent 20 years doing. We'll never be able to ask forgiveness for what we did there. You know, let's go back. Let's talk about this, Julia, because my other subject's going to get real depressing real fast. Right? Natural remedies. Natural remedies, yes. We believe in natural remedies. God gave us every herb on the earth. Yes, and he gave us that one. Instead, we've outlawed all of the herbs that God gave us so that Rockefeller can sell concoctions made from petroleum. Synthetic drugs. It's what we spent the last 100 years doing, growing synthetic drugs, creating synthetic drugs. When we had all the herbs of the earth that God gave us to heal us, to protect us, to feed us. Again, Good Old Boy Network. Yeah, Nancy, you're right. It's the Good Old Boy Network. The Good Old Boy Network is protecting everything that is wrong in the United States. Okay, these are the oligarchs. This is the final stage of the fall of the American empire. Why? Because the oligarchs no longer serve their purpose. Their rule is no longer just. It's no longer justified. It's no longer practical. It no longer serves America. It no longer serves the people. Yeah, there was a time when, yeah, maybe, when the ruling class actually created a better America for us. That's gone, though. Those people who consider us lesser, those people who consider themselves better, those people who are protecting their interests while they no longer serve us. That is one of the signs of collapse, folks. That is one of the signs of collapse. When those people who feel they rule us no longer serve us, they no longer sacrifice themselves for the greater good. They want to sacrifice us for the greater good. It's not how that works. Never has been. Never will be. You cannot sacrifice others for the greater good. It's a sacrifice you have to personally make. It's a choice a person has to make willingly, without coercion, without force. They must be able to give of themselves. Yeah. Absolutely, bro. It's important they got their power back. Problem is right now, we got a power struggle. We got a vacuum. We are protecting people who do not deserve to be protected. And as a result, we are still seeing violence in the streets. 12 Marines died today. 12 United States Marines died from a suicide bomb in Afghanistan. After we had promised, after we had effectively given all of Afghanistan back to the Taliban, we still have people who are seeking retribution. Just retribution. Yeah, China, Russia, and India. That's going to be an interesting mix. The reason why is because Afghanistan is not unified. The Taliban are not unified. The Taliban who control Kabul today will not be the Taliban who control Kabul in 2 weeks. There is no legitimate government in Afghanistan. There is no legitimate government for the nation in the collective we call the Taliban. Doesn't exist. The Taliban will fall to internal squabbles. China, Russia, India will all have to make their own peace with each tribe individually. They will not have one unified government to be able to go to and say, hey, we're your new allies. Said it before, I'll say it again. The Taliban are the Scotsmen of Islam. High country dwellers. I'll take the high road and you'll take the low road. I'll be in Scotland before ye. Yes. The Taliban are the Scotsmen of Islam. You can't get them to cooperate. Anti-reefer madness, gateway drug, and it was all a lie. We all know trauma is the gateway drug. We all know trauma. We all know self-medication is what causes us to seek drugs. It's what teaches us to escape. That's not what sobriety is about. Sobriety is not getting yourself off of the drugs. Sobriety is creating a world you don't want to run away from. And part of that is being able to heal the trauma. Absolutely. We need to heal the trauma. We can't do that in a culture that has devalued human life to the point where everyone has become a means to an end. We have so forgotten the meaning the value of human life. You know, we literally drone hospitals in foreign nations. How do you drone a hospital and still call yourself pro-life, still call yourself Christian? You know, at what point were you told it was okay to blow up innocent children? Well, it's collateral damage, so it's acceptable. You blow up children and you support pederasts. There ain't no moral high ground you can claim in that, folks. None whatsoever. The only thing we can do right now is bring our troops home. Bring them home. Get them out of Afghanistan. Stop letting the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the CIA, and the State Department screw up the evacuation. That's why we haven't evacuated the country yet. The war machine doesn't want us evacuated. They want Americans trapped there. They want Afghanis that want to come to America trapped there. They want people in Afghanistan afraid of the Taliban. Don't get me wrong, there's some people in Afghanistan who should be afraid of the Taliban, and for very legitimate reasons. There is reasons why 12 and 14-year-old boys have been shooting up warlords for the past 20 years. And you really don't want me to spell that reason out for you. You really don't. Unity. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting, bud. Unity. Why is unity so important? Is it unity for us as Americans? Is it unity for us on the lowest level? Is it unity for us as our oligarchs try and whitewash our involvement in Afghanistan? They try and make it somehow like it was a just and holy war. And we were there to take down the evils of Islam. Yeah, Nancy. CRT, there's a time and a place for it, okay? CRT was important for one thing. What everybody's complaining about right now is, what are we teaching in history? What are we teaching to kids about in history? What are we teaching kids about in being emotionally responsive to their friends, to their community? And Jesus, I sat in there today, and one of the questions was, you know, how do we feel about an open classroom discussion where the question is, do you think it's okay if a boy wears a skirt in class? Okay, now the thing is a boy wears a skirt in class. That's not CRT. And you don't know why the boy's wearing the skirt in class. You don't even know if any of the boys in the class want to wear a skirt in class. And that was a question for classroom discussion in a small group. Apparently that's not a discussion kids are supposed to have. Yeah, Tiller, it is punk rock. It's a friggin' kilt. It's what it is. What's wrong with sending your kid to school and it killed? Yeah, it's punk rock. Actually, there's a lot of different things it could be. You know, if you're wearing traditional, Islamic robes, is it okay for a boy to wear a kilt in school? I changed the word. Same style of fabric. Still wrapped the same way. Still gives the kid a chance to free ball it. Is it okay for a kid to wear a kilt in school? Because that's the difference. If you call it a kilt, it means something different than if you call it a skirt. I don't know. That's back to the things. These things we were talking about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago. The questions are different. The discussion about bias is still the same, though. Somehow we're worried about it. Somehow asking a kid to have a discussion about how they feel about wearing kilts or Doc Martens is indoctrination. Yeah. Folks, the war in Afghanistan is not a religious war. The Taliban are not fighting for the right to implement Sharia law. That wasn't their purpose. That wasn't their intent. Yes, are most of the fighters believers in Islam? Will they try to implement Sharia law? Because that is their primary core moral value. Yes. In the same way that we got people here in the United States, here in Idaho, right now, that are trying to institute a Christian Sharia law, because that is their values, that is their core belief, that is the culture they are trying to recreate in their Christian nation. Now, this isn't a good thing. Reason why is because the good book is still pretty anti-feminine. It is still pro-patriarchy. It is still about creating subservience in half the population. Women are equal partners in all of this, folks. 100% equal partners. They need a say. They need to be part of the system. They need to be part of the decisions on the path forward. My thoughts. Yeah. Punk rocks wearing kilts. People getting upset over wearing skirts in school. We all knew which kids were going to wear the skirts. We all knew why they were going to wear the skirts. We also knew whether we were going to call it a kilt when they wore it or whether we called it a skirt when they wore it. Dude, we knew that 50 years ago. We knew, it's nothing new. It's not. Stop pretending this is something dangerous. I mean, honest to God, if you were actually using local funding the way the state was told they were supposed to fund public schools wouldn't be going to federal programs that dictated how the money was supposed to be used. You could actually teach local values in the school. You could have those discussions about local biases, about local issues in the school without the federal government telling you you had to do it a specific way. Oh, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, good old boys. How much longer are the good old boys going to last here? They botched the pandemic. They botched the war in Afghanistan. They botched employment in the United States. Right now, I'm actually hearing rumors that the federal government is telling farmers to terminate half their crops. And, well, for one, if you're a farmer and you're going to till under half your crops because otherwise they won't pay the subsidy that they had planned on paying you, so it's like you either take the 1.5 for destroying your crops or you get nothing because you won't be able to sell it because half of the food shipping industry has been destroyed. Oh, and that's particularly dangerous, especially the women who are fighting the good old boys right now. You know, McGeechan, Giddings, you know, some of the others. You know, it's one of those things. I want to support women in leadership. I do. But the women in leadership have to have the right values. And right now, some of the women that have taken leadership positions in the United States have shown themselves to be completely devoid of values that support the people. Yeah, we're in a quiet war with the federal government. Why are we at war with the federal government? Because the federal government no longer serves its purpose for the people. And yes, Nancy, definitely too true. Too true. We need women who believe in women. We need women who believe in giving families a chance. We need women who aren't going around supporting portions of the good old boy network because they think that will get them ahead. We need women who believe in women. We need women who believe in the value of all life, not us versus them, not, you know, we need women who support women, but not just because they're women. We need women who support women with the right values. Yeah, that one's going to catch me an awful lot of shit. You're a feminist. You should support women. Just support women. No, bro. I don't support toxic. I do not support toxic. I don't give a damn whether they wear a skirt or whether they wear jeans. I give a shit whether they wear heels or whether they wear flats or whether they wear combat boots. Toxic is toxic. The plumbing doesn't matter. Toxic is still toxic. It's got to go away. You got to have people with the right values. Working on it. Today hasn't exactly been one of my better days, Nancy. Definitely has not been one of my better days. Too much chaos, too much everything going on, too much stuff that's broken. So how do we create the change here in the United States? How do we create the change here in Idaho? That's what we're about, right? We want change. We want growth. We want good values, not toxic behavior taking the lead. We want people who support each other. We want people who help us grow as a nation. We want people who help us grow as people. Toxic men, toxic women, toxic humans. Yes, they will destroy us. Absolutely. We need to end the toxic values. Humility, compassion. Okay, guys. I've been running my mouth here for about 40 minutes. take a little time. I'm going to go relax. Going to go unwind. I'm going to find something low-key to do and de-stress. Partake some more of this L-carnitine. Maybe get a little something to eat. Okay, folks. Remember, family, friends, community. As long as you got those three, you can make anything happen. You're welcome. You're welcome, Nancy. I'm going to try and do this a little bit more often. I'm going to try and do it when I'm not quite so triggered. I'm not sure that's going to be possible. We'll see. Those of you guys who are paying attention, I'll be doing a live stream with Kerberos Roundtable Media tomorrow night. Not sure exactly what time or what our topics are going to be. For sure, Afghanistan is going to be at least part of it. We're going to be talking about issues. I'm going to work on starting to do this a little bit more regular with a little bit better scheduled time. I'm in a better state of mind. You guys like me when I'm in a better state of mind. A lot more positive, a lot more upbeat. We like to see things. We like to see good things happen. We like to see happy things happen. We want to see happy people made happier. We want sad people to be happy. Remember that, folks. Support your family. Support your friends. Support your community. And in exchange, they'll support you. Love you guys. Peace. Catch you later.